down and behave themselves. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to remind everybody when they speak at a microphone, speak into the microphone so that our people watching tonight can hear us at home. Okay, we have a consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First on the regular agenda, Donna, I guess you're going to present a financial report
I am.
for 2023.
This is for the year 2023, and I've been in 24 and 25, so I'm going to try to pull myself back, go backwards. The first thing we have is just an overall view of the city. We received $53,506,000 revenue this year, and this is kind of how it broke out, the reason we got it. Taxes were 37%, solid waste was 4%, waterworks was 10%, wastewater 14%, just to kind of give you an idea how the money comes into the city. And the next one is just the expenditures, and it's $50,724. If you look at that, we did not dip into our reserves this year, which is very good. It's not happened in quite a while. And it kind of shows you where the money goes. Salaries and benefits are about 42%. Debt service is about 13% of the whole. Just to let you know where things end up. As far as the general fund, now you stop me if you have any questions. I'm just going to kind of go through this.
Just remind the public that our debt service is, that cap or the best practice is 20%, is that right?
30%.
It's 30%.
Valuation, is that what you mean?
And yes.
Yes.
And so,
And we're about 18% right now.
okay, very good.
We were worried about that a few years ago, but with what we pay off each year and what we've not done for a while, and we've regulated it real well. So we're good. The first thing we'll talk about is the general fund, and this is the revenue and how it comes in. Taxes are about 70% of the revenue we receive in the general fund, and that's sales tax are 41% of that, property tax is 44%, franchise fees are 10%. And then the other ones are like our use of money is our interest earned on investments, and that's about 5% last year. License and permits are about 2%, that kind of thing. And this one is just very interesting. If you'll remember, back in 2022, we received $4,000 worth of interest. And that year is when we did our 23 budget. So we thought, wow, this is going to be bad. So we better just budget 10%. Or 10,000, you know. Well, we hit $1,285,000 on sales tax last year. And this is the reason we did not transfer any money from the utilities, which is about the same amount. So that really helped the utilities this year. We'd like to be able to do that every year, but this year we were able to.
8 meals.
Next are the general fund expenditures and kind of what the departments in the general fund. Fire EMS is about 29%, police is 24%, engineering is about 3%, administrative is 16% on here, but actually what comes out of the administrative department is the transfer of the 1/2 of the additional sales tax that goes to EcoDevo, and because we got more in, that was bigger. So if you take out the transfers that we just put through administrative, they're about 4% of the general fund, actually. And this is the overall big picture. You can see we were 110% over our revenue budget. Sales tax was $1,004,000 over budget. Interest was $1.2 million over budget. No transfers from the utilities. We did have budgeted, and we had to transfer in $800,000 of our ARPA funds. As you know, we have to get that all paid out by the end of this year, 2024. Our expenditures, we're a little closer than I like. We're about 99% of our expenditure budget. There's 2 or 3 funds that went over just a little bit. Sales, of course, administrative is the sales tax, because we had more than we thought we would have. The other 2, we decided to, since we had the money, we went ahead and replaced TCC controls, they're computerized controls for the HVAC, because we found that they had a security issue in them, and they needed to be replaced. So we did go ahead and do that this year, and that's what the overages are in those funds you see. So we ended up the year with a net revenue of $830,000. We were going to be $1.5 million, if you remember, in the red. So this is very good. Our balance, as a percentage of expenditures, we hope to always be at 15. This year we were at 19. Wow. If you take out the ARPA funds, though, it would put us right there at 15. So this is like my dream come true. Things worked out this year. On the general fund balance, you can see where we're headed and where we're at right now. It's a very good start to the year. And it was such an anomaly last year with how good the interest rates were and stuff like that. We can't say, my little crystal ball doesn't tell me what we're going to do this in 24. I hope it stays good, but we will see. Next, we go to wastewater. The revenue, we're about $64,000 short than we were, less than we were last year of 2022. Let me get that straight. It's just about 1%. Wastewater revenue is, for residential, it's based on water usage averaged through the winter months, December through February. So once we get it, it isn't going to change much on the residential. So it doesn't really correlate to water. You always think, well, if we got a good water income, then wastewater should be up, but that isn't always true. We had plant upgrade fee. We were down about $34,000 on it. This will be the last year for the plant upgrade fee. We took it out and changed our rate structure. Overall, we came in at 96% of our revenue budget, and our expenditures were at 86%. So we did real well on that. You'll see we made a $337,000 net revenue. If we had to transfer our $570,000, we would be a negative $234,000. So this really boosted our wastewater fund. And the wastewater fund balance, you can see we have how far we were going down. So we're starting back up. The red line is our required reserve of 5%, and that would be about $392,000. And that maybe will pay for a pump on those big wastewater plants. So we kind of want to look at 3 months expenditures, and that's what the green line is there. It's a new line I kind of put in. We might want to think about changing our policy to have 3 months of expenditures in there. We'll have to work to get up there, but those things are expensive when something does go down in an emergency. Water revenue, we're up about 2% from 2022, $133,000 more, which is good. When you look overall, we had 107% of our revenue budget. We had, you can tell our installation charges are over budget. We had Harvest Point come in, we had Southeast 14th, we had Casey's, and we had a lot of water taps fees come in, so that's what that is. We also moved $250,000 from reserve into here to pay for meters, to keep our meter program going. So that is why the transfers are a little higher there than what we had anticipated. As far as expenditures, we're about 79%, and we ended up with $456,000 in the black. And if we'd had to do the transfer again, we'd be $113,000 negative. And if you look at this one again with the 3 months expenditures, you can see we're right where we need to be. 3 months' bills are about $1.4 million, and that's where we need to be on here. If we had to transfer or didn't have the $250,000 come over for the meters, we'd be about $1.1 million. So we'd be under where we need to be. Sanitation is next. We are about a 1% over 2022, $29,000. Overall, we had about 101% of our revenue come in, spent about 91% of our budget, and we ended up with $182,000 net revenue. And this one, we only transfer $80,000 from here usually to the general fund. So we would still have been in the black about $102,000. I did the same thing with it, and as you can see, 3 months expenditures, we're doing good with our sanitation fund. Next is airport. You can see our fuel sales are higher than they were in 21, which is a normal year. 22, remember the gas prices we had, and we had to amend the budget because they were so expensive and people were buying it. So we're doing good. We're 8% over 2021. Our leases are down a little bit from 2022, and this is mainly due to Hangar W. Remember, we sold that, got rid of that property, so we won't have that. Overall, the airport fund is about 87% of their budgeted revenues. They were over a little bit in late fees and finance charges. Expenditures at 88%. We're a little bit in the red with this fund. It is still paying a GO bond issue, about $98,000 a year. We have one more year of $98,000, and then in 25, it goes down to $16,000 a year. So that will really help the airport fund. But they're where they need to be on their requirement and their fund balance. And you can see we were in 20 and 21, we were getting rather low, so we built that back up. Golf course. I put this in here just so you could see the stair steps and how the last 4 years have been so good for the golf course in every area. It just went up every year. They came in at 103% of their revenue. We did have to amend the budget due to how much play they had. We had went up in wages and commodities, fertilizer, chemicals, that kind of thing. We ended up with $183,000 in net revenue. We have a good fund balance in there of $894,000, and that can all go toward capital improvements. Instead of having to raise money through the general fund or somehow come up with that money, we can use that money to do some things we've been wanting to do. And I think Chris has about $400,000 capital outlay in 2024 to spend. Some of that is just a contingency for the adaptive golf tournament if we need to do some things for that. But the money's coming in good for that, so we hopefully won't have to spend that. And you can see our fund balance. This goes up and up. So we need to really, I think, start making some plans about how we want to spend that money. Meridian Center. You can see that 20 and 21 were sad times for the center, but 22 that came out of it. 23 was a little bit slower. I think a lot of that has to do with our hotel situation. They just can't bring in as many people as they want, so they go somewhere else. There's not enough hotel rooms right now. And I know we're working on that, but it's just a process that we have to go through. Overall, they had 65% of their budget revenue come in, and then 70% of their expenditures. He does a real good job when the money doesn't come in. He keeps his expenses low. And one thing I think I kind of hurt them a little bit, before COVID, we would spend about $100,000 from the Eco Devo each year because it was a priority for the commission because it's such an asset to the community to keep it going. It is a community jewel. So, but during COVID, we had to go up to $150,000 each year. And I was trying to get back to that, so I did not think about moving the extra 50,000 over this year. And I think if I would have in '23, he would have ended up with a lot better start to this year. So we might have to think about doing the 150 again this year. As you can see, he is under the reserve that we want to keep. And if I had put that 50,000 over here, we'd be just right where we need to be, about 68,000.
Donna, can we can make that adjustment this year if we
Yes.
needed to, right? Very easily? Okay.
Yep. Yep. That was my fault. I should have thought about that better and done it. And then,
I like the fluidity of kind of being able to, find out and see where we land before we make that transfer. So I prefer to do it that way, actually.
good. And this is just a snapshot of our portfolio investments at the end of the year. And the rates are good here. I've got some locked in. So we're going to make our budget for '24 because I have 400,000 in the budget. Again, we did this before we knew how good it was going to be. But they are starting to come down. They're not getting so good, but they're still above 4. So we'll take it. And that was short, sweet. That's all I have.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Man, overall, nice work for everybody
I know.
involved.
Yeah.
So
And,
this is probably a forecast for the commission of what's to come in budget season.
This is a little one. Yeah. We're starting out good. That's the word.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, thank you.
I might have you go ahead and have a motion and approve it for our rating
Okay.
agencies like to see that.
I move that we approve that.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? CD Customs, Daniela.
I know we have Sarah Steele here, and I'll call her if she'd like to come up right now. I'll go ahead and talk about, well, my item is B. I'm going to go ahead and talk about, introduce the item, which is the development agreement with CD Customs. So the attached drafted development agreement, and excuse my voice, I really think it's allergies. I don't think it's a cold anymore. It's just, it's the weather. The attached development agreement between the city and CD Customs has been drafted for your consideration, which was attached in your packets. The agreement relates to a proposed project by CD Custom to construct a 50,000 square foot manufacturing facility for its high production industrial metal operation. In support of that expansion, the City Commission is also asked to consider an attached resolution which authorizes the process for issuing industrial revenue bonds, also called IRBs. Through the issuance of IRBs, a property tax exemption would be provided to CD Custom. The development agreement recites the city's good faith intent to consider a property tax abatement of 100% of the incremental increase for a term of 10 years. Should the City Commission approve this development agreement, CD Custom would be obligated to follow its intent to build the facility at the cost estimates they had originally provided, also creating 20 new full-time employee positions over the next 5 years, and begin construction within 6 months of the execution of this contract. Construction is to be completed in 18 months after its beginning. So the agreement also obligates the city to assist CD Customs employment duty by securing commitment of Harvey County Economic Development Council, EDC, to implement an employee assistance agreement to aid in advertising for job openings and aid in the facility for candidate interviews. So I'll give the floor to Ms. Steele so she can add anything she would like to add.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Steele with Gilmore and Bell. We're bond counsel to the city, and we have really 3 steps to cover tonight. The first would be to convene a public hearing, accept any public comment. The second would be to consider that development agreement, and if that is successful, then go on to the resolution of intent for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds. They are in an amount not to exceed $5,500,000. That is not in any way an obligation of the city. It is not a debt of the city. It is solely an accommodation to give the company a sales tax exemption on the construction materials while they're constructing the project. And then, as Ms. Rivas said, also the 10-year property tax abatement. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We do have representatives here from the company. And one of the elements of any industrial revenue bond with a property tax exemption is the preparation of a cost-benefit analysis. And I know Beth Shelton could speak more intelligently to that than I. But I'd be happy to answer any questions on the process and the bonds.
Anybody have any good questions?
Well, I was just thinking, when I very first was elected, I know there were some of these kinds of things that I didn't understand. So I am sure probably in our listening audience, the incremental increase, are you able to explain that so that people understand the actual, where the abatement is?
The property tax exemption applies only to the new construction, new
right.
project. Their existing facility cannot be exempted through this process, so that would be the incremental increase.
Well, I know that can often be misunderstood, so hopefully our listening audience will take that and understand that better. I've been there, done that, so I understand.
Other questions or comments? Anybody from CD Customs want to say anything?
Would you, I'm sorry, Mayor Creed.
Yeah.
Would you like to convene the public hearing?
You want to do that first?
That
Okay.
would be helpful, and
Okay.
then they could make some comments, and if anyone else has comments, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I need a motion to convene the public hearing.
I so move.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we are in a public hearing. Does anybody have any comments that they want to make? Any questions?
Public hearing.
Yes, I'd like to say,
Sure.
my name's Alan Karsten, and my wife and I, Stacy, we are the primary owners at CD Custom. We have been, as you know, we started in 2012 here in Newton, and we've been continuously just growing and growing and growing. We have some very good customer base, and Stinger is one of them, Collins Bus, JCI in Norman, in Wichita, and so forth. We do stuff for Stanley Black & Decker as well. We just continue and continue to grow. And we started with 9,000 square feet. We added 20,000 square feet. Then we bought 13,000 square feet across the street for our weld shop. And we are completely stacked all over each other already. And we've been building a facility, state of the art. Most of our equipment is automated. We currently have about 45 employees, 40 to 45. We average. The project looks to be that we are very, very conservative, believe you me, in our estimates on employment. And the employment that we're looking at adding will potentially be higher paid jobs, just due to the fact that with automation we need skilled, highly trained people to manage that equipment. So it's a very, very good opportunity for not only Harvey County and the city of Newton and CD Custom, but we should be able to continue our growth. We have additional customers that we're targeting, but we couldn't bring any of that on until we had the working space to do it. So we appreciate everybody's efforts in helping us with this, and hopefully it's a partnership that we could all win with. So
We're very excited.
yes, we are too. Kind of a little nerve-wracking. But as everybody knows, as you go in business, you start with high debt. And then as time goes, that debt pays off. It turns to burden dollars, which is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And so the more equipment you got, the more burden you're creating. It just gets easier.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a great opportunity.
Well, we certainly appreciate your total commitment to this community. We
Yes, well,
appreciate that very, very
thank
much.
you. Thank you very much. When we started, actually, we had like maybe a handful of people that we had hired from the Newton community. And it was just strictly we couldn't find them, and with the skill level we needed. And now the majority of our employees are. We do a lot of on-the-job training. We used to go through temp agencies, and it just didn't work out for us. So now we hire direct, and we train, and we invest in the individuals to help them. So we've added additional management, mid-management jobs into the facility, and given a lot of people that try to do their job very well, and they do a very good job, and it gives them the opportunity to further their careers. So it's turned out to be shaping up to be a really nice company. So.
And you've obviously, in your business model going forward and your forecast, you're more than willing to go over that 50 employee threshold where you're going to have to pay more by government requirements. So we appreciate that. You obviously see good things in your industry and in your niche.
Yes. One of the things that's really helped us really here in the last year or two, just continue to, we've added so many pieces of equipment. We've got to like 3 automated laser cell systems in-house now. 2 big punching cell systems, they's all automated. And of course we got robotic benders and manual machines. We got like 7 brake systems now. So powder coating line is online, and we're fixing to expand that with the new expansion too as well. And so we just continue to add. We put robotic welders in and things of that nature. So it just continues to, you pick the right equipment and get the right people behind it, then you're good to go. So.
Did I hear you help with the cutouts on the pieces on the back of the mural?
On the back of the what?
The old mill mural?
No, we was not.
Oh, okay.
But we'd love to.
Well, you're getting some credit for it. So.
That's what Beth said. She said something to me when we was meeting with the city attorneys, and she said something. I said, well, I don't know. I have to go look and see what those are. We had to drive around the block twice to find them. But we do a lot of stuff, like for Straight Line, and we used to make all their barbecue signs for them that they put on the smokers and stuff like that. But we do all that artsy stuff, and it's a lot of fun. But
What bridge is that on?
we do a lot of stuff for it's called Atwood Studios out of Sedgwick County, and you know the Harry Street Bridge they put up out there. It's over off McLean and Harry. Anyway, they have the big birds that's hanging over the top of the bridge and whatnot. Well, we built all those birds, and we had them. And then all their parks, they're putting all these turtles and whatnot and things. I don't know what all they are, but we make those too. So we got a good working relationship with them. So if you need a park deal done, we could do it too. So. We just send it up to Salina and have them hot dip galvanized so they don't rust at the end of the day. So.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you, Al.
Well, thank you
Thank you.
for everything. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments or anything they want to say about these revenue bonds? If not, we'll close the meeting. So now we need to consider a development agreement with CD Customs, and we have that in our packet.
I would move that we approve the development agreement with CD Customs.
I will second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we need a resolution number.
That would be G-1335.
I move we approve G-1335.
I will second that.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Air Capital Investments.
All righty. On to the next. I'll start off with, I know this is a little bit backwards. I'll talk a little bit about the development agreement, and then I'll ask Sarah to come up and give her a little spiel that she's so good at. The attached development agreement between the city and Air Capital Investments LLC, which is also referred to as Air Capital, which I will refer to as Air Capital, has been drafted for your consideration. The agreement relates to a proposed project by Air Capital to construct a facility consisting of no less than 38,000 square feet to be utilized for storage of building materials, food-related products, and other goods. In support of this project, Commission is asked to consider an attached resolution authorizing the process of issuing industrial revenue bonds, also known as IRBs. Through the issuance of the IRBs, a property tax exemption would be provided to Air Capital. The development agreement recites the good faith intent to consider a property tax abatement of 100% of the incremental increase for a term of 10 years. Should the City Commission approve this development agreement, Air Capital would be obligated to follow its intent to build the new facility at the cost estimates that they provided us, create 28 new full-time employee positions over the first 5 years, and complete construction 12 months of the execution date of the development agreement. So the agreement also obligates the city, again, to assist Air Capital's employment duty by securing the commitment of Harvey County EDC to implement employment assistance agreement to aid in advertising for job openings. So the recommendation would be to approve the development agreement and the resolution, and I will invite Sarah to come up and do her thing.
Thank you. I won't go through the whole spiel
Okay.
again. But this is a second industrial revenue bond that we're considering this evening. Same process that we need to hold the public hearing, approve the development agreement, and then approve of the resolution. This bond is in an amount not to exceed $3,650,000. I believe this is a first project for the developer, Lou Rabelli, and he has constructed a number of warehouse manufacturing, just facilities that can be leased then by folks to either store or manufacture goods within their building. So it almost has the nature of a spec building. So he'll be having leases available for that in the future. I think, was he unavailable? Yeah, he's out of town. Okay. Mr. Rabelli was unavailable, but the process is very much similar. These are not a responsibility of the city in any way. We're doing it for the sales tax exemption and property tax exemption, as Ms. Rivas reported. Glad to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? No. Good planning, just,
Mayor, you will only need to just open the public hearing. You will not have to have a motion for that.
okay. So I will open the public hearing. Anybody have any comments or anything they want to say?
I can answer any questions that you have
Okay.
for Zach as well, but Lou, since his regrets that he can't be here tonight.
And that gentleman back
Does anybody?
there, that
Oh, yes,
gentleman right
okay.
there.
Just a question, like, with the number of employees and whatnot, how does the, I guess, city ensure that those requirements was met? Is there like a review that happens at the end of the 10-year period to ensure that, I guess, the 20 employees were hired and whatnot? How does that process go?
And I'm speaking for sort of this is a general statement. Normally, in my experience in verifying employment with the renewal of an IRB bond and renewing that property tax exemption, you do it at the time that the county sends you a letter when those taxes are due. So normally, if you have there would be maybe a pilot, you get a letter that states, oh, are these taxes still exempt? You send a letter to the owner, which would be Lou Rebelli, and say, are you still meeting these guidelines? And if they do, then you renew that property tax exemption. So it's a yearly thing. I believe that's how we would do it here. Okay. Yeah. So it's an annual thing. We don't do it we don't wait 10 years.
And I'll just elaborate on that. They send that information to me and ask me to send a letter to the appraiser's office stating that they also have a form that they fill out that gives me some of that information so I can verify that.
Thank you, Denise.
Personally, folks, I'd like to ask, are these industrial revenue bonds absorbed by the companies that's issuing them, or is it issued to the public?
I think they're issued to the public, but usually they're recallable, are they not?
The company pays the fees.
Yeah, okay.
So the public does not buy these types of bonds.
They don't buy these types of bonds, okay.
Okay, I was just asking.
Yeah,
Good question.
the city's not liable, the taxpayers aren't liable.
I know,
Yeah,
but I just,
yeah.
because I own industrial revenue bonds. But I just want to know if these were issued to the general public or if they were absorbed by the company themselves.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public meeting. Now we need a motion to consider the development agreement for air capital investments.
Well, I would move that we consider the development agreement with Air Capital Investments.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? G1336?
Correct.
So we need a motion for the resolution.
I move that we approve Resolution G1336.
I will second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? On to the food truck licensing and regulations. Daniela, Rebecca, Suzanne, who's going to
I can
speak first?
I can
It's a
start.
threefer.
How about I start it off? So a little bit of history. Sarah, do you need anything signed tonight? Okay, just making sure. Thank you. You taught me well.
Thank you, Sarah.
On July 25th of last year, City Commission held a work session on community growth and safety. One of the tasked items that arose from those discussions was the need to ensure fire safety and compliance for our mobile food vendors. City staff, including our clerk, the legal department, fire, and other departments have worked together since then to examine what other jurisdictions do and what best fits the city of Newton. So food trucks are increasingly becoming popular, and for a means of serving food in communities throughout the U.S., Kansas regulations and licensing on food establishments already apply to food trucks, so the city has been tasked with filling in those gaps where the state statutes have been silent. So our fire marshal has been working with other jurisdictions to form a coalition where participation from other communities would have reciprocity with others for this type of inspection, which is pretty genius if you ask me. The attached draft mobile food vendor ordinance is what you have in front of you tonight for your consideration. City Commission first considered the ordinance in November of last year and directed staff to consider issues of reciprocity in the inspection process. So staff comments and suggestions concerning alcohol sales, fire safety, inspection requirements, and the potential impact on local businesses were all considered and incorporated into the draft today. The city does not have a comprehensive food truck ordinance in place. Code includes a section pertaining to ice cream trucks right now, but staff suggests that the same is outdated and would be repealed and would be replaced with this ordinance you have in front of you today. It would not become effective until January 1st of 2025, which would allow staff to work out the kinks from now until then. By adopting this ordinance, the city shall regulate a location of sale, require a license to sell, which would be subject to reciprocity, require inspection of food trucks, again, subject to reciprocity, regulate noise, signage, utilities, regulate waste and hours of operations, and include a penalty for violations of those requirements. The fire marshal, along with the city clerk, in cooperation with the Kansas Food Truck Coalition, will implement the program that will include the following. An example of the sticker that will be issued when a food truck passes the inspection. The color will change every year depending on the year. And each jurisdiction participating will have their own unique identifier. Each jurisdiction will purchase their own sticker. Any jurisdiction can join or leave the coalition at any time. And in order to be a part of the coalition, there's an established set of guidelines, such as requirements for who can do the inspections, an agreed upon checklist, and various other procedures. Excuse me. The inspection checklist was designed in collaboration with the Kansas Food Truck Coalition. Again, this was a group effort and follows the requirements of IFC and FPA. I'm sure our chief can tell us what those acronyms are for. The process does not restrict additional inspections or spot checks. The process helps food trucks vendors by clearly setting out the requirements for fire and life safety. So it'll alleviate the need for calling each jurisdiction to identify what rules they are following. This also allows local jurisdictions track food truck vendor issues such as illicit discharge or other health issues. So I don't know if Chief wants to say anything or if Rebecca wants to say anything. I've been briefed over the last 6 months of this conversation. I know this has been an item that we've been working on for some time, and this is our effort to get it on the books and get this to a point where it can be enforced and everyone agrees with this on January 1st, 2025.
Any comments?
Also, there is a copy of the application. It's a very simple application. It's in your packet. It's not even front and back. Some basic information is being requested, name of the company, DBA, also some statements that the food truck requesting the application agrees to, one being that they will follow the ordinance. So I think it's a good plan. I know there could be tweaks in the future, thus why the implementation date is January 1st, 2025.
Can you or somebody expand on just a bit on the Coalition for Reciprocity? Just a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, certainly. Marshall Harder was directly involved with all of this. It's been a coalition amongst several of our surrounding communities, and it was a voluntary type of coalition. So the group of fire marshals in the area got together, said, hey, what do you think of this? And then they started meeting, and it was a voluntary meeting. And I can let him expand further on who all is involved with it, but geographically, it's pretty much all of our partners surrounding us.
Okay.
Do you want to add more?
Yeah, it's been a long process. It started out with Wichita, Sedgwick County, us coming together and discussing, what are the rules, what are the codes, how do we make this the same? And it was an outcry from the food truck vendors. because every time they wanted to go to a different city, there was different rules. And so then if they wanted to come up here to Newton, if we had a different set of rules, they would have to come up here to have an inspection to come up here for one day. And so the big thing that they were asking for was make it all the same, make it to where we can do it one time. So we worked through the code. We designed a checklist that was agreed upon between multiple cities so far. Wichita, Sedgwick County, Mulvane, Derby, McPherson, Salina, Hutch, we're all working on this process together so that they can do one inspection and then go to each city. Once we had designed the check sheet, we took it to the Kansas Food Truck Coalition. So that's a group of food trucks. I think they said around 100, 150 food truck vendors come together. And they actually wanted the rules to be more stringent. They asked for stricter guidelines and to make it, because they're trying to protect their interests too. They don't want to have a fire in their truck. They don't want to have another vendor coming in and setting up shop and doing whatever they want and not following the rules, because that's taking business from them. And then the other part of this was brick and mortar businesses wanting to be fair. So brick and mortar businesses have to meet the code. They wanted the food trucks to be the same. And everybody is in agreement with this, that we've talked to on the vendor side, the business side, and it's gone really well.
So I don't pretend to understand all of this, but your explanation is being very helpful. One more question. So let's say a food truck is in Wichita a Saturday, and the next week he comes to Newton. How does that work? If he was inspected in Wichita a week before, does he still need to be inspected? What's the time span?
So the inspection time frame would be 1 year.
Oh.
And
okay.
so if they got inspected in Wichita, they would be issued one of those stickers that has the year. And then we added color so you could easily walk by and tell what year they were inspected, kind of like your license plate. Okay. And then they would be good for a whole year. There's no inspection fee, just each jurisdiction would charge if they want to have a permit fee for them to be a vendor in their city.
Okay. Well, you can read a document, but sometimes having somebody just right there to answer some of those questions puts a good face to that and what that means. So thank you for answering that.
Is there any potential overflow or overlap of this plan and ordinance impacting other community events that we have, such as Taste of Newton and the other ones?
So this is addressing the food trucks directly. Part of the ordinance that we made was a setback from other food trucks and buildings, because that follows the NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association guidelines. And that's designed around the use of propane tanks and gases and all the flammables in the truck to protect the buildings downtown as well as those that are around them. That's what's set out in this ordinance. What I'm going to work on next, because I don't have enough to do, is making a event type spreadsheet to address that specifically for an event, so that they know kind of how to set that up and how to be safe. One of the things that they recommend for events over 1,000 people is a on-site manager. So it's a $20 class that you take online, and it talks about, how do you control a crowd, making sure that we're looking at safety points to make sure we don't have some of the bad incidents that the police would deal with. How do we access those events with a fire truck? So when we start packing people in, if there is a fire or an explosion or something bad, right now we're not able to get our fire trucks in to put the fire out, which then poses risk to the buildings and the other occupants at those events.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, thank you. It's really nice to think about events that we can have, and all of that is taking place, is being done, and the general public can come and enjoy themselves and not have to worry a thing about what has been done for them to get food from whatever food truck they want. I think that's really great, and it just puts a different picture to it, all the work that goes on with that, so thank you very much.
Yeah, we've already kind of started the process, but we'll be working with the same cities on an event-type permit, and looking at River Festival, all of those other, we're not going to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
So we'll take that, build on it, make it our own, and roll something out to you.
Thank you.
Pam Stevens, Newton Chamber with the Taste of Newton. My only concern is if I have to spread people out too far. We've, in the past, probably, I guess, I don't know, Andy, last 3 or 4 years, I've had the fire EMS down there checking all the stations before we start, just to make sure it's safe. I'm just concerned if I have to spread out too far, will that create more issue for us at the chamber? Because we're 3 blocks, I really hate to go to 4. If I have to spread it out too far. So I'd just like to be in that conversation when it gets to events, because we really have tried to be very safe down there. We have, as we know from Pacer, we have probably about 10,000 people or more downtown. So I want it to be safe, but yet I don't want to create more issues either when we get ready to do an event.
Yeah, and I would definitely reach out to all of our partners that host big events. This is just addressing the food trucks, not like the tents and the open air vendors, because if they have a fire, that's going to go up more than contained in a vehicle. And when a vehicle burns, it burns hot and it burns fast, and that's going to spread quicker than if it's just a tent. So for especially the Taste of Newton, the tents will be fine. We'll just have to find more space for some of the food trucks.
It's kind of timely. I was listening to a podcast this week about the night markets in Orange County, the Asian night markets. They have like 3,000 tents and vendors at those things, and they see 100,000 people in one of those events. So it can be done, and I like the fact that we're working with other communities to kind of standardize and take the knowledge that they have and the experience that they have that we can build on that. So I think we can serve that whole community.
Just a growing thing with more food trucks. I put them all down on one end, so now it's just trying to figure out.
I think that just means we need to have more ice cream, like a food truck and a couple of ice cream.
We have lots of food.
trucks, a couple of ice cream.
We'll just put you down there to monitor another block.
There you go.
And just a reminder to you all, as you're thinking this through and we're thinking about that implementation, to go back to what our city manager spoke about. That's why we put the implementation of January 1 of 2025. It will allow us to go through another full season of festivals with this food truck ordinance in mind, as Fire Marshal Harder continues to work on that event permit. So we'll have this on the books and be able to work from this as we go through another season of festivals and downtown events.
Andy told me the other day when we bumped into each other, Pam, that he needed to come see you because yours is the main one that he was worried about. So did you catch that? No. Okay. Man, it was all for you, too. Okay. And Andy has some real cool, he showed me some of the blow-up videos, too, that, with the world of cameras, there's been a lot of accidents with food trucks. Most of them are unattended, I think, when it happens, but when they blow, they blow. Yeah. So propane's dangerous. It needs to be made safe. So anyway, so what do you want to do? Anybody have any other? Suzanne, you got any comments?
I do not.
Okay.
Well, it sounds to me like that working together, we can have both and. We can still have all of the people that always come to Taste of Newton, maybe a little different configuration, but a little more safety and cohesiveness. So it seems like there can be a win-win for everybody.
You have an ordinance number?
I do. 5140-24.
I would move that we approve ordinance 5140-24.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? we get to talk about stormwater discharge.
Yes. Commissioners, we have a change to our stormwater ordinance that we are bringing to you this evening. And for those that don't understand, we're not trying to regulate how you discharge your stormwater. We're regulating what ends up in the stormwater. And that's because we're asked to do that by the state, by KDHE, and the federal government via the EPA. We have a stormwater ordinance that is already on the books, and it's been on the books for, almost 20 years now, I think. And we just needed to make some changes to it because we're starting to see more illicit discharges, meaning discharges that are occurring that end up in the drainage system. And the biggest change to this is in the penalty section that would begin on page 201 in the packet, or page 15 of 16 on this item. And the change is because you may have a residential property where somebody maybe didn't understand and didn't know what the rules were, and we try to help educate them. At the same time, we are required to issue a violation if we are talking with people explaining this and they do have illicit discharges. The state, when they audit us, looks at how many people we've actually written up. We don't have a quota or anything like that, but if we just say, well, we visited with them and it was taken care of, that's really not good enough for them, they have told us. And so what we've tried to do with the changes to the penalty section is to be able to say if there's somebody on a residential property that is doing something that's maybe a little bit more minor than you might see on a non-residential property, where recently we have seen some fuel pumps that have been discharging fuel and not stopping the discharge even when we've asked, and it's continued and ran into the street, down the storm sewer, into the creek. We've had to do cleanups. Then we have to go through the process of getting reimbursed for that, and we have to go through the whole violation process. And if we have a non-residential property that is being non-cooperative, or in this case maybe discharges more than once and they don't fix the problem, we've tried to make the penalties so that they could be increasingly more a higher dollar, so that they actually do address the problem. And you'll notice in this section where the penalties are that there's a range, and that range would occur could get assigned by the court, because that's where these ultimately are going to end up, is in court. And we have multiple different scenarios here, like under 24-407, item A, you'll see when there's failure to install a stormwater BMP. That's a best management practice. That could be on a construction site typically. There would be a specific fine that would be assigned. And then under B, for that same issue, there's a stormwater pollution prevention plans that are required when somebody's coming to do construction if the project is over an acre, and they have to submit a pollution prevention plan. If they start construction before that's been submitted, then they could be subject to a fine. Then if you look at, and if they continue even after being notified, then there's a different type of fine that could occur. And then under, say, item D, this is failure to maintain, repair, or replace construction stormwater BMPs, because it's not just some kind of an illicit discharge, which you might think of as being like a fuel spill, but it's also if a whole bunch of dirt ends up going down the storm sewer, ends up in Sand Creek, where we are required to do sampling, and that then shows that there's a lot of erosion and there's suspended solids that end up in the water. That's something that gets tested for. We are held accountable through that process. And then you'll notice on E, when there are failure to cease illicit discharges. And then F, again, any illicit discharge in the storm sewer system, they could receive a higher fine if they continue to discharge. So that's kind of the major pieces to this change. There was a couple of other just small items. Devin, I haven't missed anything big, correct?
We also added criminal penalties for any repeat offenders that are blatantly disregarding these rules. we leave that up to the municipal court judge to decide, kind of use their best judgment to decide what. But previously, I don't think we really had anything in there that specifically added criminal penalties such as jail time. And so now we do, and we've kind of been more thorough on listing out what each penalty is for and what it can be, the broad range. The other thing that we added that we didn't go over is, let me see if I can find it.
Devin, make sure you're speaking.
Oh, yeah, into the microphone.
We're competing with the trains. We want to make sure everybody can hear.
Give me 1 second.
While you're looking, how does that usually go in the court? Does the judge, as a rule, stand by those fines? And
I mean, so far, we've only had one of these in the courts, and they just pled to it under our old penalty section, which we were only allowed, I think, to fine them up to $100. So it really didn't have much weight.
And we have handled them administratively, telling them that they needed to reimburse us
Okay.
for our costs.
I have one more question, but if you found what it was you were looking for.
Yeah, I did find it. It's on page 9. It's near the end of Article 2. It's the last 2 sections. In emergency situations or non-emergency, we've added procedures that our officers can suspend their discharge access to the city. They can just basically shut it off completely if it's an emergency situation, or if it's a non-emergency where they are just kind of, again, being blatantly disregarding the rules, then we can shut off their access.
I think that might be page 8.
Okay.
Page 8 of 16, maybe.
I didn't. Yeah, there it is. There.
24206 and 24207.
Yes.
Yep.
So my other question is, how do you enforce this? And I'm thinking more from a general, everyday residential perspective when you drive down a street, and almost every block has it, and that is grass clippings in the street. And so as I was researching this with this, that MSA, the state, and I don't have it right in front of me, MS4 municipal stormwater. I was looking at some of that, and one of the other things that was mentioned was some of the things that are even, I guess, witnessing, anybody that would witness this. So, so if I stood by and witnessed something where somebody was actually shoving their grass clippings down I'm taking that I would report that.
Yes, we have a stormwater hotline that you can call. You can call the engineering office. We'll take that call. We receive a lot of calls about people that are putting their grass clippings, throwing them into the creek, throwing them into the storm sewer, throwing them at the curb. There's a couple reasons that's not a good idea, and there's reasons why it's on the list of an illicit discharge, typically because a lot of people are putting a lot of fertilizer on their lawn, which is a nutrient that gets tested for in that water that's going to be washing into the drainage system that ends up in Sand Creek. And those nutrients, phosphorus being one of those, that is something that the state is watching very closely. That's one reason that it's not such a great idea. The second reason it's not such a great idea is because if it ends up in a storm sewer and you have a whole bunch of that stuff, it gets caught on branches and things. We could end up with some kind of a plug in the system, which could then cause some street flooding, or it could back up even worse, because we don't want to put that kind of thing down into a storm sewer.
So if somebody reports that, and then you have to send somebody out.
Absolutely.
So
we have to follow up.
Do you have to prove that they did it? I mean, somebody could say, I saw you put some clippings down there, and this person could say, no, I didn't. How does that work? Because we see this all the time during that season, and I just can't imagine how you actually are able to enforce that, manage that.
A lot of times, somebody sees it occurring, and we try to do a lot of one-on-one education for that kind of thing, because obviously there's this scale of something that seems a lot more environmentally disturbing than grass clippings. If you're discharging fuel, that is a bigger deal. But we try to do a lot of one-on-one education with our staff and engineering that goes out and does discussions with people, and we follow up on every one of these, and we have to report that number in our annual report for our MS4 Stormwater NPDES permit, which we just submitted our annual report today.
Okay, well, thank you. It's frustrating. I think you all know where I'm at with all of that stuff. And it's just frustrating to see, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that already know that grass clippings do not belong in the street, but it's certainly the easiest way to get rid of your grass.
Sure.
So you're talking about them taking their bag and dumping the bag in the street, or just incidental?
Or even mowing to the street. We ask people to, turn your mower and throw it back onto your grass. It helps with mulching, keeps it out of the curb and gutter.
Common sense.
Courtesy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody have any other comments? So we need an ordinance number.
That will be 5141-24.
I would move that we approve 5141-24.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bids for Country Club Drive Sewer Lift Station Project, Suzanne.
Yes, Commissioners. In the packet, we just updated it today because we had a bid opening on Thursday. If you recall, the commission approved the plans and specifications for improvements to the Country Club sanitary sewer lift station. And we had two bidders on Thursday of last week, and they were both over the engineer's estimate. So city staff and PEC, the design engineer on the project, did some negotiating with the low bid contractor. If you recall, this station was needing a bunch of upgrades regardless, but because we are bringing in some additional houses in that area, we wanted to go ahead and upsize some things, and so we did all of this at once, and this is something that is being paid out of the sewer utility, if you recall our discussions about that, and in exchange for us paying for 100% of this improvement, the developer was paying for 100% of some of the box improvements and some other things on the streets in the development. I have listed here on this bid tab, this one was a little bit tricky. What basically this boiled down to costs or time on the project. They needed additional time in order to lower their price. We did have liquidated damages, which we have on all of our projects, which means if we tell the contractor when we need to have the project done, and if they're going to go over that, then they have to pay a certain dollar amount per day. And so we changed the notice to proceed date on the project, and then agreed that we would cease counting those working days once they have met substantial completion, because we do have a backup generator that's going on this. And then we would begin again once they have received that, because there is a long lead time on that backup generator. That's the biggest piece of this, and that has helped us. We needed to decrease the low bid by Smoky Hill by $18,000 to get to our engineer's estimate, remembering that the project cost that you see on the cover memo at the 368 includes the estimate for the construction plus all the design work that's already done, the inspection work that occurs in the field when this goes in. And so the project is a little higher than the 295. It's at the 368, but this would include the construction and everything if you award the bids to Smoky Hill for the negotiated price of $295,000.
What's the OmniSite device?
The Omnisite is pardon me. The Omnisite device is like a reader to respond and give us information about what's working, kind of an alarm type system.
Telemetry type.
Yes.
And the other one is the automated transfer switch.
Yes, and that is a meter that counts hours on it, but there's one on the generator, so we believe this to be redundant, so it wouldn't be needed.
Good negotiation.
Yeah.
Well, we just finished today. That's why you have it at your place. So.
I was a little surprised at the difference between the engineer's estimate and what they bid for the pump unit. Is that the same quality of pump unit, or?
Yes, it is, and the bidding process is tricky right now.
Yeah.
And so we get the best guess that we can on things, and that's where we land.
Okay. Very good. Other questions?
No.
Well, I think that the telltale is mobilization. If somebody has mobilization costs that are 3 times somebody else's, they either don't want to do the work or they need you to work with them on the schedule. And I think that's exactly what made it work on this one. So good job. Do we need a motion to receive or an award?
Yes.
I would make a motion to receive and award the project to Smoky Hill LLC for the negotiated price of $295,000.
I second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Fireworks. There's been people that think that on July 4th that we should extend the length of time that we fire into the evening past the 10 o'clock that we normally, that we did in the ordinance that we passed. Chief Dunleavy, you want to make any comments before we get started here?
I know. I think it's just me. Sure, I can stand for any questions you might have. I think there was some confusion on what was maybe during the conversation of the last meeting, whether or not we're just going to not enforce the rules and the laws that on this ordinance or not. I think there was some confusion on where we would not, and we have to prioritize our calls and respond to them when we can accordingly and as fast as we can. So I wanted to make that clear that even if we stay with the 10 o'clock, if we have the ability to respond to each one of those calls, then we will absolutely do that, time permitted, manpower permitted, because it's still going to be a holiday weekend. It is a holiday where we always have a spike in calls on those particular holidays. So I just wanted to clear the air on that one straight out of the gate.
Okay. I think there's somebody here that wants to talk about fireworks in the crowd.
Hi.
Lynn Lavenant, and hello to you all. I heard some really good words tonight. Courtesy, common sense, and consideration. And I think that has so much to do with the 4th of July. As you all know, it's a very difficult time for me for personal reasons, family reasons, and that type of thing. But, and I know the commission, the city is doing what they can do, what they feel like they can do. But the 4 days that you have us declared to shoot, the 28th, 29th, And then the 3rd and the 4th, there's those 3 days in between that we all know they're going to be shooting off anyway. So my concern about all of this is, and Chief Dunleavy just said they do what they can do, and I fully understand that. I do fully understand that, and I thank you for all that. But as long as the people that are not going by our laws that are assigned during these times and other times, they are still allowed to continue to do these. And each year, to me, it seems like it gets worse and worse. But I guess I'll ask you, is there no answer to this, to where the city is giving them due time, and that they even go over the time that's allotted, days that not are assigned? So is there anything that the city can actually do? And if not, then I'm just going to say, oh, well, like everybody else does, they can continue to do what they want to do when they want to do it and stop when they want to. And I kind of get the feeling that this is where this is at now. And it's really, really kind of sad that we have city ordinance, some of them that are not being obeyed, and there's never a lot of things that can be done. And it really does bother me. And there are situations that I think I have come across that maybe other people haven't, from people that I know that are attorneys in Kansas City and other places that see kind of what's going on and wonder why. Why, when rules are made and they're broken and nothing's being done about it. So, like I said, and there was a article in the Harvey County Now saying being considerate is the best answer. But I think being considerate has kind of lost its meaning and has went down the toilet along with some of everything else. And it's just really sad to see things that go on that I don't understand. I guess it's my age. As we get older, we think back at how things used to be, but why can't the law remain the law, things that are supposed to be? We have given people in this town more than enough opportunities for the fireworks, for everything, it seems like, and we continue to do and do for those that don't obey the law and whatever the schedules that we have. So, and that's, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from out there? My thoughts, you know, if you shut it down at 10 o'clock every night, then they're probably more apt to light after 10 o'clock every night, and you're going to have an enforcement issue. I feel like we should have one night that people that are gathering to light fireworks, hopefully they'll be considerate, but my personal thoughts are you ought to have one night, the 4th, that they can light till 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and 10 o'clock, you know, I used to be a licensed aerial fireworks display operator for 26 or 27 years, and I know we never started until close to 10 o'clock because it just wasn't dark enough to get the full effect of some of those. But anyway, that's my thought. I would be for letting them light, say, until 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock on July 4th. I don't really care which one. I'm going to be in bed by then anyway, with the fan on as loud as it'll go.
Well, I am not for extending it. I agree. I think courtesy and consideration is definitely at the top of my list, what I'd like to see. We all know that people are going to be firing those after. It's like the speed limit. If you say it's 70, they'll go 75. That happens. That's just human nature. And so we know they're going to be out there past 10 o'clock. Regardless, if it's 11 o'clock, they're going to be out there firing. That just happens. It happens every year. And I would suggest that and the only way I would agree to move it to 11 o'clock is if we cut the morning time and start that at 10. I mean, I don't like the idea of 11 o'clock, and I direct that to you, Lynn. I don't like that, but if we're going to move it to 11, I'm going to ask that we make a cut and make it 10 o'clock in the morning. So if we make
I
it
don't have any problem with that.
10 o'clock in the morning, which cuts 3 hours out of that, and so I'll take any 3 hours we can get. If we can cut that and we'll move it to 11, then I can be agreeable to that, but nothing else.
Okay.
You want to say something, Rich?
Go ahead.
I was just going to make it short and sweet. You know me. I'll set forth a motion that we move the hours from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. on July the 4th.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay, if you'll just give us direction on this, we will come back with an ordinance.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll come back with an ordinance at the next meeting that states those times. So if you can just give us a direction that you want to change that, you're all in agreement or not? I mean, general consensus?
I could agree with what Kathy said.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not.
Yeah. What do you want to do?
So last year, 4th of July was on a Tuesday, and we set 10 p.m. as our limit for discharge. This year, 4th of July is on a Thursday. You know, I'm not for beyond 10 p.m. on what would be called a work or a school night. If it was 2025 and the 4th of July is on a Friday, I'd be fine with 11 p.m. But not with the 4th being on a work or a school night. I'm not in favor for adjusting the discharge beyond 10 p.m.
What are your thoughts on the start times?
You can move that to noon, I don't care.
Well, in all honesty, me agreeing to do 11 is simply because my co-commissioners are agreeing to cut a time in the morning. But I'm certainly most agreeable with Commissioner Stinnett with regard to not moving the time. If I had it my way, we wouldn't move it. So I know that people probably just think this is nuts, but it's not. It's not nuts. I personally would agree to leave it at 10, and if we could even cut some of the time in the morning so people can sleep in on a holiday, then I would be for that. So I'm going to retract 11 o'clock, and thank you, Commissioner Stinnett, for your thoughts on that, because I honestly, with respect to my co-commissioners, thought I might be the only one that was wanting to stay at 10 o'clock, but I'm glad to hear.
We'll still love you either way, Kathy. So,
well,
so what are the days that we're?
That's right.
What are you wanting to do?
Oh, there they are.
There,
I guess I
yeah.
should just look.
The only day that's being discussed tonight or has been brought up is July 4th. The rest of it is, set. And if you choose not to do anything, then the ordinance will stand as it is. This is just for July 4th.
Okay. Should we look at giving them a Saturday night then? The 29th?
My answer to that is no.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I think we're done.
It was, the notice went out that we were going to have this discussion in January. That's when this should have come about.
That's right.
I don't like the idea of making a decision and then now it's okay, well, now we have to change our mind. Okay, we made a decision, we need to move forward with it.
I agree.
And if we have outcry, then come to the January meeting next year.
Yep, I agree. Simple.
I say leave it.
Yes, sir.
All this discussion has been about discharge times. What about the discharge of pay all over the street from the fireworks that stays there for days.
No, I know. Don't disagree with
It
you on
goes
that.
into our stormwater.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
It's illicit.
You don't need to say anything.
Okay.
Oh, no.
What? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I want to bring up a different topic, but it relates to fireworks. And I've shared that with my wife, because it was a great time when I was a little kid. It was a time of unity. It was a time of people getting together, kind of like, you know, the Newton, Taste of Newton. And I'd like you to consider it. That is, I would like to see the city somehow in their budget put together a program that on July the 4th, we have a community fireworks display. And we got the facilities to do it. It's just a matter, I guess, of the reason the city's never been involved is the money aspect of it. I think that we got here, the Lions Club did it, and then they've dropped it. But I grew up for a time in Anthony, Kansas, about 2,000 people. And I can tell you, on the 4th of July, we came out there as a family.
Yeah.
And we brought our picnic baskets and whatever else. Fire department was out there, police department was out there, they had an ambulance and everything else.
And they did it.
But they did have a wonderful fireworks display. And I would just like to see the city deal with that. And then you wouldn't have to deal with all this other stuff, because you're going to focus the attention, or try to, with the people of this community on something that's community-wide. There's no charge. This is that dime is on the city. So I'd like you to consider that. That's all I wanted to bring up.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good thing.
That's what we did in Ulysses on the 4th of July, as the whole community
Yeah.
got together.
It can be done, and it's simple. I mean, you know, it might mean a budget issue,
Something to think
but
about.
The city used to provide funding for fireworks, to the Chisholm Trail Festival that used to occur over the 4th of July holiday. But then that group of volunteers, I think, got kind of worn out. And so the Chisholm Trail Festival quit occurring, and then a few years without something, and then summer days started happening.
Yeah.
And the commission at the time made the decision that a lot of people go out of town on 4th of July, and a lot of people go to Peabody because they have a huge fireworks display. And the Lions Club did it 1 or 2 years there, and then after that, the city didn't fund one any longer. The other thing that I would be remiss if I did not mention is when that was done originally, it was done at Fisher Field. However, Fisher Field has artificial turf, and we cannot shoot off fireworks at Fisher Field. You could sit in the grandstand, and then they were shot off south of First Street, but we can't do it at that location.
I think the ones we had done in Anthony, and they had a volunteer fire department. I know we don't have volunteer fire department. But
yeah.
I think the fire department, the men that were involved in it, somehow got that fire display training they needed.
Yeah.
And with the assistance of the fire department, they were set and ready to do it and make sure that everything was safe. And I'm not saying you go down to Fisher Field, but no, you can't shoot off there.
Yeah.
But you got that across the road there. And the fair and all of that. That would be ideal. People sit in the stands.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Next January, we can have that
Yes.
conversation.
So what do we do about this, though?
Well, it looks like,
I would say, since we're at an impasse here, let's just leave it like it is.
yeah, I'm cool.
It's really not worth
Yeah.
moving any rocks for, let's just leave it.
Yeah, now people can blame Rich for turning it the other way, so.
That's why he has a
Anyway.
thick skin.
Okay. Citizens Forum. We got Ron Dietzel about dilapidated buildings. Tell us your name and your address. And
Oh, but you already said my name.
I want to know
Yes.
if I said it right.
You did. I'm impressed. It happens very rarely that somebody pronounces it correctly. Yes, I'm Ron Dietzel. Good evening. My comments will include words of appreciation as well as two requests. By way of appreciation, I applaud the effort and energy that the city commissioners put into making the city of Newton a good place to live. Thank you for your work and for keeping the city government focused on what is needed for the long-term benefits of Newton's residents. My words of thanks include the staff and a plethora of city employees. They each play a role in making Newton a good place to live. Due to interactions which I've had with him, I really appreciate one individual in particular, Mr. Jerry Lewis, the Environmental Control Officer. He plays a key role in having an impact on Newton being a place in which we can take pride. Additionally, Mr. Lewis can help reduce vandalism and criminal activity by monitoring vacant, derelict, and dilapidated buildings. Unfortunately, Mr. Lewis is hampered in these efforts since he is spread way too thin as one individual who's got to cover all of that in the large number of buildings, such buildings that we have here in Newton. That being the case, I respectfully request that during the next budget process, the City Commission make provision for adding a second environmental control officer. My second request, please make it a high priority for the City Commission to hold a work session within the very near future. Its focus would be on revising the existing ordinances and the regulations so there would be stiffer penalties and increased enforceability of those ordinances against those property owners who have a vacant, derelict, and dilapidated building. The existence of these decaying and neglected structures are hazardous, as well as an invitation to such criminal activity as drug dealing. Within my immediate neighborhood, there are two such buildings. Doors stand open, windows are broken out, children and youth could venture inside, and we know how curious children can be. They could venture inside and get trapped and or injured because you don't know the condition of the floor when you get on one of those derelict buildings. Could be rotten. Animals can freely move in and out. Weeds grow a foot to a foot and a half high. Trash is accumulated in the front and backyard, including such things as abandoned sofas. Police have been to these sites due to intruders. In the meantime, the property owners do nothing in spite of the efforts of Mr. Lewis. In conclusion, please give serious consideration to these two requests. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Van Meter.
That is the very topic I came to speak to you this evening, Commissioners. But first, my question is to confirm that the city owns the former Dillon's building at Main and the railroad tracks. You know, it appears to me to be a derelict building. My question to the city is, why can we not paint the front and perhaps even the north side, even to the color scheme of the City Service Center on Kansas Avenue? Looks really nice, white and dark gray. We have a beautiful downtown, but that building is certainly an eyesore. I would encourage, I would think that you have a line item in your budget for building maintenance. If it belongs to the city, I encourage you to take care of it and make it attractive. This isn't on my topic that I came to share with you tonight.
Okay.
But in regard to the 4th of July and fireworks, I encourage you, don't pick a battle that you can't win because you can't. people are going to shoot them off regardless. If it's 10 o'clock, if it's midnight, whatever time. Rod had it right. Turn your fan up and put in earplugs. And go to bed at 10 or 9 or whenever you want to. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you.
Should we tell him that what the plan is for the building?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
The old South Dillon's building that was mentioned is slated for demolition, and we are waiting for an agreement from BNSF. We have been passing it back and forth between our attorneys, and I believe the ball is in their court right now because there is some contamination in the soil under the building that was created by BNSF, and a spill that they had at the rail yard there that is immediately adjacent. And when we tear the building down, we are required to deal with that contaminated soil, and we are asking BNSF if they will take responsibility for it and pay for the disposal of it. And I believe they're going to agree to it. They're just going back and forth a bit on some of the legal terms. And once we have that finalized, then we can finish up the specification package, and we'll be putting it out to bid to demolish the building. And then at that point in time, the city commission will make a decision on what they want to do with the property. They may choose at that time to accept proposals from developers that would be interested in the property or what have you. So it is definitely something that is moving. It's just hard to see it when you're looking at the building today. But
thank you.
The process is moving.
We need a going soon sign out in front of it.
Yes. That's true.
It's been a years-long process.
Yes, it has.
hasn't it?
Yeah. Dealing with the railroad takes lots of time, so. Okay, that's all for the Citizens Forum. Let's go around the horn, and if anybody has anything they want to share or say, Leroy? Hey, you've got your chance. You're here. Yeah. Tell us a joke or whatever. Suzanne?
I have a couple of things. I would just remind everyone that as you're speaking with folks and those that are watching online, remember that construction season is beginning as the weather gets warmer. We will have a lot of road construction going on, including our own maintenance staff that will be out on the street. And so please be careful when you're going through construction zones and watch for those folks because we want them to go home safely to their families. I would also remind everyone that all of the packages that you see that say wipes cannot be flushed down the toilet. We're having an extensive problem with wipes ending up in the sanitary sewer and causing large blockages in the sanitary sewer main. Even if they say flushable, they are not flushable. Please do not flush wipes. That's all.
He's passionate about wipes.
She is. Yes, I don't blame her. I have to see all the sewer
I
boards
can't
that come
even
in.
imagine.
Yeah, it's not good.
Just a quick shout out. We had our city staff put on an employee appreciation this morning. We met at the Meridian Center for a couple hours and just really got to hang out, get to know each other, spend some time together, do a couple of fun activities, and then get on with the day. I want to thank Michael and his team at the Meridian Center for putting on such a great event, along with Denise and her team. She headed it up and made it a fun time. So thank you.
Well, it's been a good meeting, and I'm so thankful for citizen input. It's been good. The conversation has been good, and I want to say thank you to my co-commissioners with regard to the fireworks decision. I just appreciate it. I really do. And so thank you, and respect the process and the things that we go through to arrive at the decisions that we do. And it can be tough sometimes, and then things like this are just good. So I'm thankful.
I'm thankful for everybody and all your hard work. I do want to put a shout out to everybody to get your dog licenses in. They're after Friday, then they're late. So it's helpful to help find you when your little four-legged friend goes on a runabout, so.
I just want to remind everybody that, you know, we're elected officials. We represent the entire community. Sometimes you think that maybe we don't have your best interest at heart when we do things, but just remember, we as commissioners do care, and we spend a lot of time really working hard, trying to figure out how to do things the right way. And, you know, I have a lot of fun being a commissioner, and really appreciate the friendship and the camaraderie that we have as we work to kind of aim this city in the right direction. We've got great staff, and you know, our planning processes are really, well, it showed in the financial report how hard we work to make things work, and we work for you. We're part of the community too, so we don't do stuff without thinking about everybody that it affects. So most of us, I think, enjoy being commissioners. I think all of us enjoy being commissioners. Yeah. And we just appreciate you giving us a chance to serve. So I'll just end it with that.
I would say amen to that.
And we are adjourned.